Have you ever been put on the spot, asked an unexpected question, invited to speak or required to respond immediately, only to feel your mind go blank, your heart race, your throat go dry, and every ounce of confidence you had just seconds ago suddenly disappear? You know you're not stupid, you're not uninformed. In fact, you understand the topic quite well. But when it's time to speak, right then and there, you can't get the words out. We live in a world where opportunities don't wait for you to be fully prepared. Meetings happen without warning. Questions come out of nowhere. A single look signals that an answer is expected. A moment that lasts only a few seconds can determine whether others trust you, respect you, remember you, or move on without you. And in those moments, many people lose not because they lack ability, but because they can't communicate on the spot. Instant communication is not about sounding great on stage or delivering a presentation rehearsed for weeks. It's the art of speaking in the moment, when there's no time to prepare, when pressure weighs on your brain, when the fear of judgment starts echoing in your head. Do I sound stupid? What if I'm wrong? What will they think of me? That self-judgment freezes us, pulls us out of the present moment, and makes us perform far below our true ability. What follows is often self-blame. I could have said that better. If only I had stayed calmer. If only my reflexes were faster. These thoughts repeat, slowly eroding confidence. Many people begin choosing silence as the safer option, avoiding opportunities, shrinking their own voice. Eventually, they come to believe the problem is their personality, their introversion, or the idea that they're just not good with words. But the core issue isn't knowledge, it's the absence of a proper response system under pressure. We're never taught how the brain works when stress hits, when anxiety floods in, when we must think, speak, and stay calm at the same time. No one teaches us how to regulate anxiety, accept imperfection, listen deeply, structure thoughts quickly, and control our own pace in the moment. Instant communication is a skill that can be trained, a clear path, step by step. With the right system, you don't need to talk more, you just need to say the right thing, say enough, and speak with full presence. From that moment on, the way others see you and the way you see yourself begins to change. If you find this content useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to follow more valuable insights.
Step 1. Manage anxiety. Anxiety is not the enemy, it's simply a signal that you're stepping into a meaningful moment. In instant communication, people don't fail because they're unintelligent or uninformed. They fail because anxiety takes over the body and mind the moment pressure appears. Research shows that more than 85% of people feel anxious when speaking without preparation. This isn't a personal flaw, it's a natural biological response to social risk and judgment. When anxiety hits, the body sends clear signals: a racing heart, dry mouth, trembling hands, an empty mind, even a frozen sensation, despite being fully aware of your surroundings. More dangerously, anxiety doesn't stay contained within you. It spreads to others, creating what's known as second-hand anxiety. When you lose calm, your listener loses a sense of safety. When you're tense, your message loses weight, no matter how correct the content is. That's why the first and most critical step in instant communication isn't speaking better, it's managing anxiety. And to do that, we must recognize that anxiety has two layers: surface symptoms and deeper roots. To address it fully, we work from the outside in. Direction 1. Manage symptoms. Stabilize the body to free the brain. Under pressure, the brain enters survival mode, prioritizing escape over thinking. The first move is to slow down your biology. Deep belly breathing, with an exhale twice as long as the inhale, is the fastest way to signal safety to the nervous system. Just a few proper breaths can slow the heart and restore mental clarity. Small actions help too. Sipping warm water, sucking on candy, or chewing gum before speaking can trigger the body's natural relaxation reflex. Cooling the body is another effective strategy. Holding something cold, cooling the forehead or neck can lower emotional intensity and pull you out of panic. These aren't hacks, they're direct interventions into the nervous system. Direction 2. Manage the source. bring the mind back to the present. The core of anxiety isn't the question or situation itself, but obsession with future outcomes. Fear of being wrong, fear of judgment, fear of losing face, fear of not being good enough. The brain isn't worried about the present, it's worried about imagined scenarios. And the more you project into the future, the more you abandon the moment you're actually in. The core solution is simple. Return the mind to the present. No complex philosophy needed. Everyday actions work best. Taking a short walk, listening to familiar music, chatting briefly with someone, counting numbers, or even reading a tongue twister to force focus on sound and rhythm. When attention anchors in the present, anxiety naturally loses intensity. You don't need to eliminate anxiety, you just need to stop letting it drive. Great communicators aren't people who never shake, they're people who know how to speak while still shaking. Once the body stabilizes and the mind returns, you realize you can still think, still speak, and still connect.
Step 2. Maximize mediocrity. Under pressure, most people don't fail because they lack ideas. They fail because they evaluate themselves while speaking. Every sentence is judged, edited, doubted the moment it leaves their mouth. In that moment, you're no longer talking to the other person. You're talking to the judge inside your head. This is the greatest barrier to instant communication. Not the listener's gaze, not a difficult question, not a tense setting, but constant self-judgment while speaking. The human brain isn't designed to generate content, observe itself, and assess quality simultaneously in real time. Try doing all three, and the brain overloads, resulting in worse performance. Continuous self-evaluation doesn't just cause stumbles or forgotten points, it steals presence. You're no longer in the conversation, you're watching yourself struggle from the outside. Thought flow breaks, your voice stiffens, words lose life. The paradox is this: the harder you try to sound good, the worse you sound. Not because you aren't capable, but because you don't allow yourself to be normal. That's why step 2 isn't learning more speaking techniques, it's changing the standard in the moment. The core principle is simple but hard to accept. Allow yourself to be good enough. You don't need to be sharp right away. You don't need to be polished. You don't need to impress. Just be accurate, genuine, and keep going. Maximizing mediocrity may sound counterintuitive in a world obsessed with excellence, but in instant communication, it's the fastest path to mastery. Lower the bar from brilliant to okay, and the brain is freed. Pressure drops, presence returns, thoughts flow more smoothly. And in that non-perfect state, your best responses finally have room to appear. Remember, no one expects perfection in spontaneous moments. Listeners seek clarity, authenticity, and connection, not a polished speech. When you allow imperfect answers, you create space to refine, add, and deepen in later turns. Instant communication is a flow, not a single shot that defines everything. Accepting normal doesn't make you average, it preserves your energy, awareness, and adaptability. Strong communicators under pressure don't sabotage themselves mid-conversation. They know their job isn't to shine instantly, it's to stay in the game. Each sentence is a step, not a verdict on self-worth.
Step 3. See communication as an opportunity, not a threat. How you interpret a communication moment determines your entire response. For many people, an unexpected question or direct feedback isn't seen as an invitation. It's instantly labeled as a threat. When that happens, the nervous system shifts into defense. The body tightens, the voice closes, thinking narrows. Communication becomes a wall instead of a bridge. This is the most common and dangerous mistake in instant communication. When you treat questions as attacks, your instinct is to retreat, defend, or give short answers just to get through. You stop listening to understand and start listening to protect yourself. Your words aim to avoid risk, not create value. The conversation loses vitality, tension is felt, and connection quietly slips away. The correct mindset must be reset at the root. Instant communication is not a battlefield, it's a gift for connection. Every question, response, or comment signals that someone is opening an interaction with you. When you see communication as opportunity, the brain shifts from defense to collaboration. Your voice softens, your eyes open, your thinking becomes flexible. That's when real presence emerges. This step's core adaptive spirit is captured in two powerful words: yes and. Yes doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It means acknowledging the current reality. And invites expansion, contribution, and direction. Saying yes and communicates, I'm here with you and I'm ready to build. This is the foundation of effective communication in high-pressure environments. To sustain this mindset, 4 mental tools are essential. Not yet frees you from premature conclusions. A weak answer now doesn't mean a weak answer forever. Unclear doesn't mean failure. Not yet keeps the mind flexible and open. Yes and turns dialogue into flow. Instead of rejecting, you receive and expand, guiding without confrontation. Next play is the art of releasing mistakes instantly. Dwelling on a bad sentence only causes more misses. Skilled communicators know every moment is a new play. Missed takes reframes errors correctly. Mistakes aren't failures, they're imperfect takes. When each sentence is just a take, perfection pressure disappears, curiosity replaces fear, and you keep speaking.
Step 4. Deep listening. Most people think they're listening, but in reality, they're just waiting to speak. Before the other person finishes, the brain is already crafting a response. The eyes nod, but the mind races ahead. We hear many sounds, but grasp little meaning. This is the most common issue in instant communication. Listening to reply, not to understand. You miss the core, misread context, and respond off target. Under pressure, this tendency intensifies. The brain fears silence and rushes in, but that urgency derails the conversation. The core principle of deep listening is listening until you sweat. Not physically, but mentally. It's full attention, setting aside ego, fear, and the urge to impress. Deep listening requires more discipline than speaking, but it gives you what all improvisation needs: time to think and accuracy in response. What matters most isn't details, it's the crux. The crux is the real reason the other person speaks, the underlying concern, the real problem, the dominant emotion. When you grasp the crux, responding becomes easy. You don't need many words, just the right ones. The 3P framework makes this practical. Pace, slow down. Speech, breath, reaction. Slowing signals safety. You appear calm and trustworthy. Space, create room. Pauses and silence, suspending judgment. Space lets conversations breathe. Grace, sense emotion and intuition. Many messages live beyond words, in tone, rhythm, energy. Grace means listening to what's unsaid. 2 powerful support tools are clarifying questions and paraphrasing. A good question confirms understanding and buys thinking time. Paraphrasing ensures accuracy and makes others feel truly heard. Step 5. Structure the message. In instant communication, time is scarce, pressure is high, and attention is fragile. Without structure, even great ideas fall apart. The brain doesn't retain scattered thoughts. It needs order and anchors. That's why structure is a critical weapon. Structure doesn't stiffen speech, it sharpens thinking. Structured speech is easier to understand, remember, and pass on. Being understood is already an advantage. Being remembered is a leap forward. Under pressure, structure is a mental lifeline.
It prevents panic and emotional drift, guiding thought while speaking. You don't wonder what comes next, the structure leads you. 2 foundational structures are simple enough to remember, yet powerful in most situations. Problem, solution, benefit. State the problem, present the solution, highlight the benefit. Clear, persuasive, memorable. What, so what, now what? What happened, why it matters, what's next? 3 beats turn scattered responses into directed messages. These structures are reusable everywhere. Unexpected questions, quick feedback, self-introductions, meeting updates, high-pressure interviews. Context changes, the framework remains. Remember this, structure doesn't make you unnatural, lack of structure makes you insecure. Internal clarity creates external calm.
Step 6. Focus and brevity. The value of a message doesn't come from its length, it comes from its focus. In instant communication, many people don't fail because they say the wrong thing, but because they say too much. Under pressure, they try to explain everything, add details, expand context, hoping the listener will understand. The result is usually the opposite. The message gets diluted, the core disappears, and the listener no longer knows what truly matters. This is the most common problem among intelligent people: rambling. Instead of telling the time, they build the entire clock. They walk through their whole thought process, reasons, background, exceptions, precautions, when the listener only needs one clear answer. It's not that they can't distill ideas, it's that they haven't defined the purpose of the sentence they're about to say. The core principle of this step is absolute focus on the value for the listener. Before you speak, literally within a single breath, be clear on 3 things: what the listener needs to know, what they need to feel, and what they need to do after hearing you. When these 3 are clear, everything that doesn't serve them can be dropped. Brevity here isn't about cutting content, it's about removing noise. Strong communicators understand this. Saying less doesn't weaken a message. Saying the right thing makes it powerful. When you focus on the core, your voice steadies, your eye contact holds, and the listener feels clarity. Under pressure, clarity is what creates trust. To practice this in instant communication, an ultra-short pitch structure is extremely effective. It takes you straight to the point without losing depth. What if you could? Open possibility. This line sparks imagination and attention. You're not explaining, you're painting a picture. So that, clarify value. This answers why the message exists, what it helps with, what problem it solves, what impact it creates. For example, anchor it in reality. One short, concrete example helps the listener visualize and believe it's possible. And that's not all. Leave the door open. It signals depth while choosing to stop at the right moment. You don't unload everything, you leave space for the next exchange. The power of this structure lies in the discipline to stop. Weak speakers talk until they run out of words. Strong speakers stop when the message has enough weight. In instant communication, stopping at the right moment is just as important as saying the right thing. Focus and brevity are not skills for people who know less. They are signs of mature thinking. They show you understand what matters now and what can wait. When you master this, you're no longer driven by the pressure to prove yourself. You speak to create value, not to perform.
Step 7. Own the pace and the pause. Pace is the invisible fingerprint of confidence in communication. When pressure hits, many people let anxiety pull them into speaking faster than they think. Words pile onto words, ideas overlap, not because they have so much to say, but because they're afraid of silence. That rush shatters rhythm, makes it hard for listeners to keep up, and strips even correct messages of their weight. This is the most common mistake in instant communication: speaking too fast out of anxiety, talking nonstop to fill space, and unknowingly surrendering control of the pace. When you don't control your pace, you don't control the conversation. The listener is forced to chase you, and in that chase, the most important points are lost. The core principle here is simple and powerful. Silence is not weakness. Silence is authority. A pause is not a sign of being unprepared. It's a sign of presence and self-control. Strong speakers are not afraid of silence. They understand that silence gives the message time to land, gives the listener space to absorb, and gives themselves room to think. Whoever controls the pace controls the conversation. When you manage speed, you decide when to move forward, when to slow down, and when to stop entirely. Pace becomes a tool for leading, not a byproduct of anxiety. The moment you slow down, the balance of power shifts. To turn this principle into a reflex, use simple but consistent tools. The first is pausing for 1 to 2 seconds before responding. This brief pause allows the brain to organize thoughts and sends a calm signal to the listener. It shows deliberation, not hesitation. In most cases, listeners don't feel discomfort, they feel respected. The second tool is pausing briefly after each key point. Every important idea needs a moment to land. If you speak without breaks, ideas pass by without leaving a trace. A well-timed pause turns an ordinary sentence into a meaningful one. It helps the listener register the message and helps you keep your thinking clear. More importantly, silence must be intentional. Silence to give weight to what matters. Silence to allow thinking instead of forcing words out. Silence to read the room, observe reactions, and adjust your next move. The paradox is this: the more you dare to pause, the less you say, but the deeper it goes. A slower pace carries calm. Calm builds trust, and trust makes your words persuasive without effort or display.
Step 8. Own your point of view. The weight of a message doesn't come from how much you say, it comes from where you stand. In instant communication, many people choose the safe path. Vague phrasing, neutral language, avoiding clear positions so no one feels uncomfortable. But that safety drains the message of color and makes it forgettable. Listeners walk away not knowing what you truly think or what you stand for. This is a common mistake among capable people who lack a personal imprint. They fear being wrong, challenged, or different, so they say what's broadly acceptable. In doing so, they lose the most important element of communication: a stance. Without a stance, words are smooth but empty, polite but unconvincing. The correct mindset is this: good communication is not about pleasing everyone. It's about standing clearly in one place and taking responsibility for that position. Listeners don't need perfection, they need authenticity. A clear point of view creates gravity, even when not everyone agrees. Owning your point doesn't mean imposing, arguing to win, or inflating the ego. It means placing yourself inside the message so others know where you're speaking from, what experience informs you, and what values guide you. When you take responsibility for your words, the message immediately gains depth and humanity. In instant communication, this is done through simple but powerful framing phrases. In my view, from my experience, I think the most important thing here is. These aren't about showing off opinions, they position perspective. They tell listeners you're offering a viewpoint, not absolute truth. That clarity creates safety and mutual respect. When you say, in my view, you don't close debate, you open dialogue. When you ground ideas in experience, you add lived context. When you name what matters most, you give others something to hold on to. Messages with a clear stance are more memorable than neutral ones because they carry direction and character. The long-term benefits are significant. People can locate you, how you think, what you value, where you're reliable. Personal credibility grows not because you sound impressive, but because you're consistent. Conversations deepen, moving beyond surface politeness into real exchange. Remember this: clarity of viewpoint is not extremism. Extremism shuts down listening. Clarity means having a position while remaining open to new information.
You can speak firmly and still be flexible. You can stand your ground without creating conflict.
Step 9. Recovering when you freeze or misspeak. The difference between resilient communicators and those who lose momentum isn't whether they make mistakes, it's how they recover in the very moment a mistake appears. In instant communication, everyone freezes sometimes, stumbles, or realizes they didn't express an idea well. This isn't an exception, it's human reality. What's rare is being taught how to handle that moment with calm and intelligence. Here's the truth. Everyone has moments of not knowing what to say, even seasoned professionals. Everyone occasionally chooses the wrong word or feels an idea fall short. The issue isn't the mistake, it's the reflex that follows. That reflex is what others notice, judge, and remember. The most dangerous mistake isn't saying something wrong, it's panicking. Panic leads to excessive apologies, self-deprecating comments, and the unspoken message, "I'm not in control of this situation." Over-apologizing doesn't make you humble, it erodes credibility and pulls attention directly to the error. Mature communicators know this. A mistake only grows when you amplify it. Smart recovery begins with light acknowledgement. Simple lines like, "Give me a second to think," or "That's a good question," are not signs of weakness. They signal composure. They buy you time, give the brain a breath, and introduce a necessary pause. Next, shift back to structure. When stuck, don't search for the perfect sentence. Return to a familiar frame. State the fact, clarify the meaning, suggest the next step. Structure pulls you out of emotion and back into thinking. It turns a derailment into a clear path forward. Another powerful tool is summarizing what you've just said. Restating helps you regain flow, gently correct unclear points, and guide the conversation back on track. More importantly, it signals that you're actively steering the moment, not being dragged by it. The golden rule here is crucial. People don't remember the mistake, they remember how you handled it. They don't care where you stumbled, they watch how you respond. Calm or panic, ownership or self-doubt, moving forward or getting stuck. When you handle mistakes cleanly, without excessive apologies or self-downgrade, you don't just save the conversation, you elevate your personal image. You show resilience, flexibility, and reliability under pressure. And those moments that seem like disadvantages often become powerful strengths. The real path of progress. Instant communication isn't a gift reserved for the naturally articulate. It's a trainable path of progress built step by step, day by day. Once you understand this, you're freed from the belief that "I'm just not good at speaking," freed from the fear of fast reactions, and able to actively build your own communication skill. This isn't a sprint, it's a disciplined accumulation. The key message is simple. Instant communication doesn't rely on luck or natural eloquence. It relies on deliberate practice. Strong speakers don't think faster than you. They've practiced more, reflected deeper, and refined continuously. Every answer, every conversation, every unexpected moment becomes a micro-training session if you choose to use it. 3 elements form the foundation of real progress. Repetition. Repetition builds reflexes. When you apply the same structures and thinking patterns repeatedly, you stop wondering what to say and naturally know how to say it. Reflexes aren't built in perfect moments, but in everyday repetition. Reflection. Reflection turns experience into learning. After each conversation, ask what worked, what didn't land, what could be clearer or shorter. Progress comes not from speaking more, but from thinking about how you spoke. Skilled communicators learn from their own experience. Feedback. Feedback keeps you out of blind spots. It can come from others or from observing how listeners respond. When you welcome feedback, you save years of trial and error. You don't adjust based on guesswork. You adjust based on real signals. Thinking faster and speaking smarter don't come from talent, they come from the right system. With structure, principles, and consistent practice, confidence no longer needs to be forced. It becomes natural, steady, and trustworthy. The real path of progress in instant communication is quiet and unglamorous. It's built through silent repetition, honest reflection, and feedback received with humility. Stay on that path long enough, and adaptability stops being pressure. It becomes a life skill that follows you, supports you, and elevates every conversation you enter.